So when I heard what the topic was for this week, I thought I would probably have more to say, but I really don't have a ton to say. I don't have many complaints about life in general. Um, I'm I'm kind of an optimist, but I'm also a bit of a pessimist, maybe a cynical optimist, a positive cynic. I think I'm a cynical optimist because I think my default orientation is to look at the bright side and not focus. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know what I focus on, but I find that I'm rarely upset with the world. And I think that could be that I haven't had to deal with many of the bad aspects of the world yet. But I think it's also possible that I have some optimistic inclination. And I think, like what Kevin was saying, I kind of got swept up in that whole um, cynicism is more intelligent than optimism wave, and I I don't know if I intentionally or unintentionally developed a little bit of cynicism, but I maybe it's just growing more bitter with age. I don't know the difference between changing of like optimism to cynicism or whatever. I don't know the difference between that and just aging because when you're a kid, which I was not too many years ago, um, things are pretty much great. I don't know how to say it. You're pretty innocent, and there's not a lot going wrong. And as you grow up, you kind of develop a bit of bitterness and cynicism because things start going wrong, and you start looking at the world through a bit of a different lens, and you stop assuming that everything is great, and you start assuming the worst, kind of to protect yourself. And I don't know if everyone does that. I wouldn't be surprised if everyone does that. It seems pretty natural, but um, I don't know. I think it's really interesting um, that we find negativity more intellectual than positivity. And here, I'll complain about that. I don't think we should do that. I do that. I do that absolutely. I'm preaching to the choir here. Um, no, I'm not. That's the wrong saying. Stop that. And I do it too. I absolutely do it. Um, I'm being a hypocrite. Absolutely. Um, like I have a few friends who are insanely positive, and I don't get it, and it kind of confuses me. And my inclination is to think this person isn't very intelligent. Um, and I mean, in some of those cases, I'm sure that's the truth. But I don't think optimism means unintelligence because I think our culture did a thing where it kind of established that to deal with emotion and serious issues, you have to be very depressing. Like if you think about all the classics and all these various forms of art, so many of the popular ones are are laden with tragedy, and we kind of start associating good art with sad art, and good entertainment with entertainment that makes us sad, um, or experience negative but also potentially positive emotions. And there are the exceptions of like sitcoms, which you watch to feel good. Um, but I think that's a little bit aside from the point. And I think in doing that, we kind of forgot how admirable being positive is, and how amazing of an ability that is in this day and age, and how it isn't always ignorance. I'm sure it could be ignorance. Naivety is a thing. Um, I'm sure I'm sure part of my happiness is contingent on my ignorance of the world and my lack of experience with its many flaws. But at the same time, someone knowing so much about the world could very possibly be an optimistic, happy person. And I think that is more impressive of a feat than knowing about the world and being a cynic. Because when you see all the flaws of the world, it's natural to become cynical. It's just what you do. When you find out that people are messed up, you don't expect people to be decent. You start seeing the world for how crappy it is. And it really takes a lot of willpower to say, no, that might be how it is, but I choose to live in that crappy world and find what's good in it. And it's not some idiotic, that bad stuff doesn't exist, la 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 la, I can't hear you. It's a very conscious focus away from that. Because the world isn't all crappy, there are plenty of good things. And a person who can not ignore is not the word, a person who can not dwell on the crap of the world, and who can put their best foot forward and live a happy life, those people are amazing. Because it's easy to be sad, and it's easy to hate things, but it takes skill to find the good in something bad. Like if you've ever had to read, peer review essays, right, in school, even if you're not a good writer, and I'm not a very good writer, you can very easily find flaws in essays, right? Especially the really bad ones. But so much of the time, schools, especially like high school and middle school, they tell you, okay, now give a few compliments or encouragements. And that's when the struggle begins, because you can't crack down on like incorrectly used semicolons, and you can't encourage someone for correctly used semicolons. So you're forced to try to find something good in that piece of work. And oftentimes, the work doesn't really have anything good. One school I went to, you did like 3 encouragements and then 3 suggestions. And finding suggestions was much easier than finding encouragements. Because finding problems is much easier. And someone who is capable of seeing the problems but also seeing the assets is going to have a much nicer journey through life, I think. And I think if I were more capable of doing that, I would be happier. And I think that's true for other people as well. So I think it's wrong to assume that happy, like insanely happy, always happy, or even just generally happy people aren't as intelligent or introspective or deep as the more sad of us. In fact, so I think it's possible someone could be ignorant and shallow and happy for that reason. I think it's very possible that someone could just not have a care in the world because they don't know anything about the world. But I don't think it's fair to assume that is always the case. Just like it's not fair to the intelligent cynics to assume that they are like the unintelligent cynics who just do it to seem intelligent. You can be positive and stupid and positive and wildly intelligent. I don't think it's possible to be positive and not... I don't think it's possible to be positive and not have enough willpower and presence of mind and intelligence to see the good things in the world. Like, I don't think there's a middle ground. I think you either need to be very ignorant or very, very skillful. I think cynicism is slightly easier. You can be ignorant and just follow the crowd, right? There are a ton of like hipsters. Like hipsters aren't exactly it, but just bear with me. There are the people who make a life out of being haters or whatever, finding all the flaws in the world, and then you can just follow those. So you can be an ignorant cynic, you can be an intelligent cynic who sees all the flaws but doesn't put the energy in to also see the positive things. And I don't think you need to be very intelligent to be a cynic. I think you need to be very, very intelligent to be a cynic that inspires people. And I think that's what the classical art, like the classic books, not classical art, that's a different thing. I think that's what made those successful. They were depressing, many of them, but they were depressing in a way that made people have better lives. And you can be a cynic who just follows negativity. You can be a cynic who can just only see negativity, and you can be a cynic who uses it to inspire positivity. And I think that's still different from being an optimist who sees the negativity but focuses on the positive, because that's still focusing on the positive. But being a cynic who uses it for positivity is focusing on the negativity to help people. And I think those are all important types of people. Not all of them. The ignorant people, I wouldn't mind losing. But actually, the two ends. I'm more a fan of the people who are so intelligent. I don't know if they're real. It's theoretical. And I'm rambling, and I don't have any specific instances, but I imagine that there are hyper-intelligent people, that are able to forgo the crappiness of the world, and then very intelligent people who are able to see the crappiness of the world and put a spin on it to improve people's lives. And I think those two types of people are important, and it's good to have a mix of them. And it's wrong to assume that positive people are always ignorant, because they are not always ignorant, and I doubt they are probably always. I doubt they are often ignorant too. But I can't prove that. And this was about complaints, but I went on a tangent. Speaking of complaints, I'm in high school, right? So the workload isn't that bad. And on top of that, I'm in a not very clever high school, right? So the workload is even lower, less intense. And yet, I still manage to always be in over my head. And I don't like that about me, and it's really frustrating, and it leads to me being tired all the time for no reason, because I have plenty of time to do what I'm assigned, but I just fail, and that is upsetting to me. And I'm saying that now because I'm realizing how I have like a test to study for and math homework to do and this video to edit and post, and I also kind of am sick, so I want to sleep as much as possible. And that's my soapbox. Soapbox? Is that the word? I don't know. I didn't complain much in this video. I just rambled. So there's my complaining. Bye.